Marijuana and the environment, there's definitely an impact.
We're always trying to be as environmentally conscious as possible.
How one cannabis shop is trying to be even more green. They're not high or anything, but serious. The government confirms another video capturing a UFO near a Navy ship. Maybe we need the aliens to fix our unemployment system. We've long reported on wait times and fraud. New numbers tell us how much the scammers got. And of course, Friday good news.
You gave me my life back, so you gave me everything that I have every day.
A Colorado man celebrates waking up from a COVID coma and goes back to the hospital on the 1-year anniversary to celebrate. All that and much more next. Colorado's unemployment office wants to focus on the positive. An estimated $37 billion prevented in fraudulent unemployment payments. 85% of people getting their ID verified in 5 to 15 minutes. Colorado's unemployment office is troubled by the attention we've given the negative, the amount of money that has been paid to scammers and the people having to wait 5 hours and longer to have their ID verified, if at all. Marshall Zellinger shows us the good and the bad.
Here is unemployment fraud by the numbers. In February, Colorado's Department of Labor and Employment confirmed $6.5 million paid out in fraud and estimated that it stopped $91 million in fraud from being paid. Today, updated numbers: $19 million paid out in fraud and $437 million prevented.
We know we have to get payments out to legitimate claimants as quickly as possible, but with unprecedented fraudulent activity, we have to put in measures that prevent fraudulent players from accessing the system and payments going out the door.
At one point, we were seeing weeks of activity where fraud holds were being placed on 90% of claims, and that has since decreased since we have also implemented ID.me.
ID.me is the ID verification system that requires a snapshot of your license, a selfie, and your social. As we told you Monday, if you've been on a family phone plan or moved a lot, you may require additional verification.
I submitted everything successfully. I got one of those messages that the wait time is going to be in excess of 5 hours.
Terry Kirby was stuck having to be verified through the Trusted Referee virtual process that has resulted in hours-long waits for about 15% of unemployment claimants.
I think ID.me themselves have acknowledged that there's work to do with their customer service levels.
They know we're not happy, but let's be honest, they're not happy about it, and they're taking steps to address it at this point in time.
ID.me is verifying identification for 25 states now, a service Colorado is paying for, and a service ID.me told us it's working on improving.
We're hiring 150 plus people in the month of April to continue to staff up our call center. We're opening an office in Florida where we're going to hire about 500 people throughout the rest of the year to continue to add capacity so that people don't have to experience the wait times that they're experiencing today.
For people who don't have the technology like a Wi-Fi capable phone or a phone with a camera, I want to show you a phone number where you can call and tell them you don't have that technology and that you need help with ID.me. 303-536-5615. Jeremy, as we said in the story, the state believes it has stopped a confirmed $437 million in fraudulent payments, but the state estimates that if it didn't catch any fraud at all, as you said at the top, they believe they would have had to have paid out $37 billion that they have since prevented from paying out.
That's quite a bit. Let's talk about the people who actually received money, the scammers who actually did get paid. You talked about that in your package. Have they busted or arrested any of these people?
Nobody wants to say anything. I asked specifically if the Department of Labor and Employment has turned over information to the Attorney General's office specific to any one person. The Department of Labor didn't want to say. I talked to the AG's office, which has its own task force working on this right now, and they are not saying anything right now, which says to me there's been nothing yet to announce whether it exists and someone has been targeted or soon to be arrested. As far as I know, no one has yet, and I'm sure that's something they will want us to know if it happens.
Yeah, I bet they would probably be happy to announce any sort of arrest or charges if they get to that point. Thank you, Marshall. The day has finally came. For the first time in a year, statewide COVID guidelines are no more. The dial is gone, and now local counties are in control. Most of the Denver metro area is now under a similar system that calls for guidelines equivalent to the state's old level blue. On the other hand, 27 Colorado counties, including Douglas, Weld, and Elbert, have dropped restrictions altogether. Wherever you live, remember that we still have a responsibility to take care of each other. Wear a mask when they're required and maintain that social distancing when necessary. But it seems like we're almost there. One day closer to the new normal that we've all been waiting for. I can't wait. And that's thanks to the increasing number of vaccinations. We are just under 25% of Coloradans fully vaccinated. More than 15% are partially vaccinated. Again, these numbers could change as thousands of people in El Paso County have to restart the vaccination process after they learned their vaccines were invalid. Our daily positivity rate average went up slightly yesterday to 4.9%, but our weekly average is still heading in the right direction. It is now down to 5.7%. Now, here's where things aren't looking that great. Today, we hit 500 COVID hospitalizations for the first time in 2 months. That is up 12 from the day before. Hospital numbers have not been this high since the beginning of February. Tonight's next question comes from a viewer named Peter. Since the CDC says fully vaccinated people can travel safely within the U.S., Peter wants to know which mode of travel is safer. Plane rides and road trips both have their pros and cons, so we had 9 Health expert Dr. Payal Kohli weigh in.
When you're deciding the risk between air and road travel, you want to ask yourself the biggest question, which type of travel is going to expose you to more people, and you want to pick the one that isn't going to expose you to as many. I think a road trip would be safer, even if you have to stop overnight, because the number of people that you come into contact with is by definition going to be less than at a crowded place like an airport. But I do feel that air travel is getting much more safer with 1 out of 5 Coloradans fully vaccinated at this point, and a third of us being partially vaccinated. And as you know, there's a lot of safety measures taken on planes to make sure the actual time you're on the plane is safe as well.
So what questions do you want the next team to dive into? They can be about anything. You can just reach out to us over email or on social media. Growing cannabis and running a shop takes a huge amount of energy. You've got a ton of soil, you've got a lot of water, and you've got chemicals. And there's no doubt the industry has a big impact on nature, a big carbon footprint. Our Mike Grady went to a local grow operation to see how they are working to change that.
When you first walk in here, it's a little overwhelming to see just a mass overload of plants.
Keeping plants alive ain't easy, even though these dudes make it look that way.
Right now we are harvesting roughly 120 to 150 plants per week.
Chris Baca oversees operations at Denver-based cannabis company The Clinic.
Growing cannabis indoors, you're really trying to mimic the outdoor environment. You're going to see a lot of lights, you're going to see a lot of plants, you're going to see a lot of air movement and a lot of AC. Each room also uses a great amount of CO2 that helps supplement the growth process. I mean, everything I named off right there requires a lot of energy.
According to a recent CSU study, Colorado's cannabis industry accounts for 1.7% of Colorado's greenhouse gas emissions. That's similar to waste management and coal mining in the state.
Hearing those numbers, those comparison numbers, that's kind of really when you open your eyes a little more and it hits home a little more. And the more we are able to look at this industry and look at this product and actually study about it a little more, I think we're able to move ourselves in the right direction.
Composting waste, using low-energy LED lights, and partnering with other local businesses makes the clinic a bit more energy efficient.
We also started doing CO2 from Denver Beer Company, where we actually take their CO2 that they would normally release into the air and use that as a source for our production.
It's going to take a lot more work to clean up cannabis production, but it's work Chris is ready to do.
To try to produce a quality product without really destroying our environment, and that's the main goal.
For Next, I'm Mike Grady.
Oh, that CO2 sharing is pretty interesting. The clinic is one of several Colorado cannabis companies taking part in a program to try and reduce energy consumption. They're trying out things like temperature monitoring and using only energy at certain times. His battle with COVID almost took his life.
And I thought, did I just die? I think I'm dying. I died. Okay, I'm just waiting for everything. And I asked someone, and it might have been in my dream, and they said, oh no, you're very much alive.
And now this Coloradan is thanking the doctors who saved him. And with all the snow out there, fire danger is probably the last thing on your mind, but not for them. Fire recovery is all they've been thinking about for months. And when was the last time you heard us talk about UFOs on this show? Well, that's next. Welcome back. Last year, Colorado saw more than 100 days of fire. Two of the biggest wildfires in state history scorched a combined 400,000 acres. Now, as we near the summer months, we're reminded of the fire danger still ahead and all the work that still has to be done to recover from last fire season. The Cameron Peak fire in Larimer County was especially devastating. It burned 208,000 acres, making it the largest fire in Colorado ever. 4 months after being 100% contained, federal and local agencies are still working on restoring the land that was burned. The Arapahoe and Roosevelt National Forest Service tells us it's going to take years to get everything done. And a lot of that work is repairing what firefighters left behind in order to put out the flames and save lives.
The first step is fire suppression repairs. And those are, there are hundreds of miles of lines. Fire line, whether it is hand line that was dug by a firefighter or dozer line made by heavy equipment. We have to go back and we have to repair that so that we don't have erosion issues, so that they don't open new roads in the forest where they shouldn't be.
Forest agencies say the soil burn severity of an area is a key factor in recovery. The higher it is, the harder it is for vegetation to regrow and for people to rebuild on the same land. Experts tell us that 36% of the Cameron Peak fire resulted in high or moderate soil burn severity.
Finally Friday, and yes, it was a cloudy day with some heavy snow this morning, but we're on our way to a warming and drying trend for the weekend. Temperatures this afternoon very cool in the mid-30s. We typically look for temperatures in the low 60s this time of year. It's going to be a while before we have those numbers back in our forecast charts. Our most recent spring storm is exiting the region. On the back side of it, winds out of the northwest will sort of cut off the flow of moisture. Occasional snow showers tonight, a winter weather advisory for the southern mountains, but no additional accumulation for Denver. So chilly, our low tonight at 25, a stray snow shower tomorrow morning and then some clearing, mid-40s, and a partly sunny day. Sunday, the pick day of the weekend, dry and 55 ahead of the next storm and chance for light snow that comes in Monday, exits Tuesday, and then we kick off a real warming trend by Thursday of next week. Have a great weekend.
Welcome to the J-Files, weird, unexplained things that make the news. This military video showing what is being called a UFO near a U.S. naval ship was confirmed as real by the government, but they won't go into detail about what that whole triangle thing is there. It's one of several videos to make national news over the last year and confirmed as legit by the government. There's currently a Department of Defense task force looking into these cases and others, and it will present findings in a report to Congress that's expected to come out this summer. So what are these things? Are they drones? Does some country out there have some new technology that we don't have? Or is it aliens? I find this whole stuff fascinating, which leads me to making a recommendation. A local Denver author, a science journalist named Sarah Scholes, wrote a book called They're Already Here, UFO Culture and Why We See Saucers. She approaches the topic with good, skeptical science journalism and actually fun storytelling. She talks about the UFO Watchtower in southern Colorado and people like the former singer from the band Blink-182, who is a big-time UFO believer. You can find the book on Planet Earth.
I almost consider that room the room that I was brought back to life on.
He left this hospital a year ago after recovering from COVID, but today he went back with a special mission. And your generosity crashes yet another website. Kyle has an update on this week's Word of Thanks campaign. Next. April 16th, 2020 was the day Jason Jehonian opened his eyes for the first time after spending nearly 2 weeks in a coma. The 41-year-old survived COVID thanks to the doctors at the Medical Center of Aurora. On the anniversary of waking up, he went back to thank those doctors. Here's photojournalist Tom Cole with our Friday Good News.
Hey! The staff at the Medical Center of Aurora is getting a much-deserved pickup today.
My goodness.
From former patient Jason Jahanian.
What am I allowed to do?
What he's allowed to do and can do is bring a tray full of food for lunch.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And a heart full of thanks.
You gave me my life back, so you gave me everything that I have every day.
Jahanian got a beatdown from COVID and spent some time in the hospital.
Okay. Oh, this is where I was?
Today, April 16th, 1 year after waking up from a coma, in room 16, Jason reflects.
When we had to go to the ER, I said bye to my daughter. We had to wake up early morning. Looked at my son in his room. And I thought to myself, you better not die. You better not die.
We couldn't believe how quickly you turned around for us, too.
Doctors say his will and desire helped them bring Jahanian back to health. So good, he's been able to run 2 half marathons and even break his leg riding motocross.
Just being here is a win.
Thank you for coming back and making our day to be able to see you how you are now with your family. It means a lot to us.
A win-win.
I'm a COVID survivor.
For the staff and Jason.
Y'all hungry?
For next, I'm Tom Cole.
What a remarkable story. Jason believes he got COVID when he traveled to Moab, the same place he later broke his leg. He may not be going back there for a while. An update on your willingness to help survivors of sexual assault in Colorado. Word of thanks. That and your feedback are next.
Thank you so much for your continued generosity and support of your Word of Thanks micro-giving campaign while I'm away this week. You're raising money for the Sava Center, which helps sexual assault survivors in northern Colorado and also has a focus on prevention, working with thousands of high schoolers in our state each year. So many of you tried to give on Wednesday that you crashed their website. We've raised $15,000 so far to support this important work. If you text the word thanks to 303-871-1491, I'll send you that link to join me and so many others in donating to benefit the Sava Center. They work one-on-one with survivors, helping them through the legal process and any medical treatment they need. And again, working on prevention is a key part of their mission as well. Thank you so much for your support.
And some feedback. A lot of you are rightfully pointing out that I had a bad grammatical mistake at the top of the show where I said the day has finally came. It's supposed to be the day has finally come. We'll do more better next time.